one really good quality strategic connection can truly unlock your whole pipeline, your whole strategic business growth. The issue is you don't know which one. Yet so often in your approach to networking, marketing, sales, biz dev, you eliminate most of them for all the wrong reasons, and therefore you may never find the one. And the connection expansion system go through the whole process from changing how you network, to changing how you follow up, to having connection meetings, to how you add value, to deepen relationships, to train your network to do what you want, which is receive connections inbound, and how to do that in a systematic way that's duplicatable, there's no guessing, and it works.
You know how we as entrepreneurs start a business, but at some point get stuck in the daily grind, working in the business and putting out fires and forgetting why we started in the first place. And for many of us, we started because we wanted to have freedom to do what we want, whenever we want, with whoever we want. Over the last couple of years, I realized that running business without having systems in place gets quite overwhelming. And that revenue doesn't mean much, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you profit from all the hard work that you put in. Welcome to Systems and Profits, the show for entrepreneurs who want to build real business systems that drive predictable growth and lasting freedom. I'm your host, Alex Thorick, and each week I'm joined by high-performing business owners, entrepreneurs, and marketers who share the exact systems they use to scale their businesses. I'm super excited to have you here as always. This is a place where we talk about mindset, money, and marketing. And as you probably know, we did cover in some of the episodes, we talked about connections and we talked about referrals and how a lot of you guys are relying on referrals, but at the same time, you don't necessarily have a system to get those referrals and to know when those referrals will come in. And today I want to introduce you to Devin, who is going to share with you specifically how you can make sure that that you pretty much build an entire system on how you could get referrals and how you can ask properly without necessarily sound needy or salesy. Devin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Definitely excited for this. I know we had a great pre-conversation, so this should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I know that you've done quite a lot in your life, in your career. You've launched a marketing agency. You opened a cat cafe. I wanted to ask you, what motivated you to pursue those, I would say, pretty diverse ventures? And from this experiences, or how this experiences really shaped your approach to business?
Yeah, I think I came out as an entrepreneur. Like I've always loved business, and so I think that's the first answer is just I love business. I love the challenge. I love the high you get when you're winning. I love dealing with the obstacles, and so that core love for business fuels all the stuff I did as a child, and then photography in college, and then launching a marketing agency right out of college. And so that was my first kind of big business. And then, manufacturing, co-working. And then you mentioned the cat cafe. And with all of those, the core thing is adding value to people and making sure it's something that I'm aligned with from a passion standpoint. And then beyond that, a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today was born in that first big company where I was in a crowded marketplace that's very noisy and was trying to figure out how do I stand out in this marketing world when there's so many other agencies doing the same thing. And that started to lay the foundation for the connection system, which I know we'll get into more. And that challenge probably resonates with a lot of your listeners in being in a crowded marketplace where you're trying to stand out. And so that's really the foundation. And then the skills are transferable to all the other businesses and ventures I've worked on.
I can agree with you 100%. Like in knowing the agency world from the inside out, used to run one myself. We still do have a couple of clients that we provide the services to. Right now, we're mostly focused on the consultancy, but you're 100% right. Like, you really need to find a way to stand out from the market because everyone, business owners are being bombarded by agencies, whether those ones that have been in the business for, I would say, 5, 10, maybe even 15 years, and those ones that are just starting out. And in case with, let's say, if we'll take, for example, real estate agents or insurance agents, like, there are almost or a little over 2 million real estate agents in the US only, which is quite a lot of people. and the market is oversaturated in a way. And so you do have a book, the connection expansion, and you emphasize on the idea that we're only one connection away from massive success. So could you share a little bit on what does this concept really mean, and how can people apply it in their maybe personal and professional lives?
Yeah, for sure. So the subtitle of the book's fun because I had some like witty subtitle before that was like, a duplicatable, scalable system that helps you get more referrals. And when I was going through editing, the feedback from everyone was like, that's great. That is what it is. But like, let's plant a big idea. And so I want to sit on that for a second and really understand that like one really good quality strategic connection can truly unlock your whole pipeline, your whole strategic business growth. The issue is you don't know which one. Yet so often in your approach to networking, marketing, sales, biz dev, you eliminate most of them for all the wrong reasons. And therefore you may never find the one. And so this book and the connection expansion system go through the whole process from changing how you network to changing how you follow up to having connection meetings to how you add value to deepen relationship to train your network to do what you want, which is receive connections inbound, and how to do that in a systematic way that's duplicatable. There's no guessing and it works. And when I say it works, we're talking, I send about 100 to 200 connections out a month. 30% of whatever I send out comes back in. So in January, I sent like 105. I received 32, I think, inbound connections. I don't know about your listeners, but 32 new people you get to meet and have conversations with, like that's a dream. And that's what we're talking about. Like, how do you fill your calendar up with high quality, highly aligned strategic conversations that unlock a lot of these things? And so that's kind of the quick answer. But let me give you a real estate example because I think this is going to hit home. When I ask realtors, who do you want to meet? And we're in a meeting. The first default is their ideal client profile they're used to spitting out, right? So first time buyers, I'm looking for people who are relocating, right? Like there's these catchphrases. Great. I'm glad you know your ideal client. Sophisticated realtors will ask for the next level, which is they'll usually ask for, well, I'm looking for insurance agents because they're great partners, or I'm looking for mortgage lenders because they're great partners. Fantastic. You and every other realtor, right? You and every other realtor. That's what you're trained to look, right? Ideal client profiles, pick a few buckets. Those are your two big asks for strategic partners. So this is what I do is we go and go, okay, great. Who else has access to your ideal clients? So let's use a first-time buyer, right? First-time buyer, what's the main trigger for first-time buyer? Typically they're getting married. Usually they're having kids, right? Those are some trigger points that they look at, oh, I want to buy a house. Great. How else can we get to those people? Who else has access to them? What about the preschools? What about the parent teacher associations? What about the nursery stores in town that are doing parenting classes? What about all of these youth sports organizations where you're getting into the family's life younger, right? Or starting to see them grow families? Or what about all the other home service providers? The cleaner, the dry cleaning company, the pest control company, the alarm company, the solar sales guy, all the other in-home sales guys. All of those people have access and knowledge on when someone might be wanting to make a move or hearing, oh, they're running out of space or, oh, there's too much cost in this house. And realtors aren't usually asking for all those other things, yet those are all access and ways to get to your ideal client. So find the one or two you relate to best and shift that to being your ask. So when Devin says, hey, who do you want to know? You go, what would be great for me is I want to meet the solar sales guys because they're knocking on doors all the time and they're figuring out who's moving, who's not, and they could give my information out. So again, we want to shift the ask, and there's a lot more reasons for that. But there's just a quick example of what we're talking about when we're talking about changing how we do it.
Honestly, that makes so much sense because a lot of times, as you said, maybe if we talk about real estate agents, they do think about insurance, mortgages, financial advisors, but insurance, financial advisors, they kind of go hand in hand. Sometimes it's the same person. Um, but thinking about going to different places where families or let's say parents bring their kids to, I don't think that many agents really do that. Let's say like, I guess even soccer games and anything in between, honestly. Because we do like to, I'm sure I've heard of network marketing before, and I used to be a part of a company 8 years ago now. And in the world of network marketing, there's something called taproting. So the way that works is you would look, so people that bring that join your team, you'd look for leaders in your organization, and then you would provide training to them in order to help them build their teams. And then you take that person and go 6 levels deep. And what we started doing when we went into the world of real business, I'm not saying that network marketing is not real. It is real, but again, it's when it started the business, like you have way more things to think about. So when we started the business, the agency specifically, that's what we started doing as well. So the people, the prospects that we were talking to, some of them, let's say, even if they couldn't even necessarily afford our maybe services, but they were a good potential prospect or a client, we would ask them for a referral. Because at that point, we spent all this time, we've built the relationships, there was the goodwill, they knew us, they already trusted us. So that way, we started getting referrals in both ways, basically. And what you were saying, this is kind of a next level.
Yeah, the goal, so the tagline we use for this is I want you to become an authority in rooms where your competition doesn't play. And the way we do that is we figure out who has access to your ideal clients, and then how do we get to them and how do we deepen that relationship quickly. And so, yeah, your example, and I did network marketing. I guess it's been 15 years ago now, or 17 years. So yeah, it's been a while, but it is a great crash course in rejection,
Oh, yeah.
growth, team
Oh,
building.
yes.
There's a lot of great positives. Um, it's the part here that's interesting. So you mentioned client referrals. Let's talk about that for a second, because I think that's like at a minimum, you should be asking your best clients to refer you. What happens when people do that, the success rate is typically 5%. 5% of your clients are willing to make introductions. Like that's still very minimal. The issue with when we ask for someone to refer us to a prospect, right? So we're talking about referrals, not just connections, and we'll talk about the difference, but to referrals. And I go, hey, Alex, this is my ideal client. That's why I want you to refer me to. You now are going through your database going, okay, I think I have a few people. I might be willing to introduce them to you, but there's this weird tension and friction because when you introduce them, I'm going to sell to them because that's a perceived prospect. And so we create all this friction in connecting people because it's all around this referral. And so when we go a level higher, so let's say again we're going after a business CPA, maybe that's a great referral partner for you. And we shift the ask, go, hey Alex, you know what I'd love to meet? I'd love to meet business CPAs because we strategically can work together. We're targeting similar clients. We're adding value in different ways. Now you go through your database and go, okay, I know a few business CPAs. And now you're like, yeah, I'll connect you because there's no friction, right? The introduction is, hey, I was just on with this guy, Devin, and he's amazing. Here's how and why. And you're a rock star and you guys are working with the same, well, you got to talk. And now I'm going to have 100% success rate booking that meeting. You're going to feel great because you've added value and made a connection. They're going to feel value because now they're meeting someone else strategic, and we've eliminated all the friction. And it allows us to grow our network faster and actually in an exponential way. Because if I nurture that relationship with the business CPA and that's a great referral partner for me, they can send me business every month ongoing, right? And yes, they may be able to tee up prospects, but now they're the ones saying, hey, you've already said you have a problem. Devin's my guy. Here's why. And let me make a connection. But so often people are so stuck in just the referral part, they're missing all the connection part.
No, it is very important. And when it comes down to the connection, it's all relationships or building relationships. And then there's the art to building the relationships, right? It plays a huge role. Could you, a little earlier, you mentioned that, let's say you would send 100 connections on a monthly basis, and about 30 people would get back to you. Are you referring to online connections? So let's say something like LinkedIn, where you use LinkedIn, or do you do a mix of both? Is it online and offline at the same time?
Yeah, so when I'm making connections, email's the best because it gives me the chance to edify both parties. And often when people make introductions, they go wrong because there's a couple pieces missing. So when you make a connection in the subject line, I always say introduction, name and name. So you know there's two people being introduced and who they are, right? So it stands out in your box. And then in the email, I say, hey, Joe, I want to introduce you to Bob because this is who Bob is. And here's why I want to connect you. And then Bob, I want to introduce you to Joe. Here's who Joe is. Here's why he's amazing. Here's why I want to connect you. And so you need to edify the person and endorse them in the first couple sentences, each to each other. So you're elevating the connections in the relationship. And then you have to have that one line that says why the heck you're connecting them. I get connection emails all the time. And if you've been through my process, they tend to look like that because you start to go, oh, that feels good. And I see why it works. But when I'm getting them from other people, it tends to be this like, hey, Devin's awesome. You guys got to meet. And then the likelihood of them booking a meeting goes down dramatically. And then when we get on the first meeting, we're stumbling through the first like 5 to 7 minutes trying to figure out like, well, why are we meeting? Whereas if you just add the one sentence that says, you got to meet Devin, he has a connection group. It's brilliant. You need to be a
Uh-huh.
part of it. Now, when we get on the meeting, you're like, hey, so and so said this. Like, okay, I guess let's start there. And so even when you're making those connections, you got to do it the right way.
Okay. So then in your case, when you say connections, it's not necessarily you connecting with people personally, it's you introducing other people
Yeah,
to each
so it's
other.
me connecting other people. Now, yes,
Okay.
there's strategies for doing the cold outreach and stuff
Yeah.
too, but the secret to the to to it. So let's talk about the power of one. This will again help illustrate this conversation. So everyone listening, just think of one awesome person in your network you haven't talked to in the last 6 weeks. Great. You probably have one or two people that popped up instantly. I want you to book a 30-minute meeting with that person just to catch up. That's it, right? If you're going to do it in person, book a 60-minute meeting. If you're going to do it online, 30 minutes. Those are your time frames. In that meeting, you're going to ask them, hey, what's going on? Catch me up. Hey, remind me about your history. Like, how'd you end up in this industry? Where are you going? What's in your way? So you're going to build this relational conversation. And then the key is how you follow up. From that meeting, you're going to make 3 connections to that person. So you're going to solve a problem, right? So if they said, hey, this is a problem, you're going to connect them with things that could solve and support that. If they ask for something, you're going to connect them again. These are not prospective clients unless you have that. And then the third is you're going to do the strategic conversation we just did mentally for them. So they're going to say, my ideal client's this, because that's what they know how to tell you. You're going to think about expanding that to all the people who have access to them and make a couple of those connections. And what happens with this one meeting is you now connect them to 3 people. You now have permission to follow up with all 4 people 3 weeks from now and say, hey, how was that introduction? And now you took one and turned it into 4 conversations. The 3 new people that you're following up with and saying, how are those connections or how was that conversation? What'll happen is one of those 3 will likely say, like, hey, that was a great connection. We should catch up. So now you have one more meeting. And what are you going to do in that meeting? You're going to ask them the same questions, and then you're going to make 3 connections. And now from that extra meeting, you have 3 more people you can follow up with. And of the 3 you follow up with, one is probably going to reach out and say, hey, that's awesome. We should catch up. And what you're doing is you're taking this dead network that you have and you're re-engaging it. You're warming it up and you're training them to do what you want, which is to introduce you to amazing people. But if that's what you want, you have to do it first.
Wow. This is genius, honestly, and makes a lot of sense. And this way, when you're following up with people, you don't necessarily need to sound like a lot of times people say or are sending messages just checking in. There is no just checking in. There is a reason why you're reaching out to see if they had a chance to maybe have a conversation with that person.
Yeah, and I do use a just checking in email, but a lot of people mess that up too. So
But it's yeah.
yeah,
So I'm not necessarily referring to the words just checking in. Yeah, of course you could use that, but most of the times it's this dry just checking in to like see what do you want to do next.
yeah, and it's usually sales driven, right? Like
Yeah,
there's usually a catch.
yeah,
And you'll notice in what I talked about, there's no catch. Like I still haven't sold you anything. I've gotten to know you, I've added value, I've made connections, I have permission to follow up. And yes, right, savvy salespeople will identify all the opportunities in there, and you should jump on them, right? But don't let the sales language crowd the connection nurturing part. Otherwise, you turn everybody off. And so yeah, that this is I mean, we're getting deep, which is fun, but yeah, let's go.
Yeah, no, I'm loving it so far. So, how would you balance the importance of making new connections and maintain the relationship that you already have over time? Because by the time you're starting to, let's say, doing this or making these introductions, and you'll have three, and then three goes into six, and then nine, and then it's tripling, and then there are no limits, honestly. The numbers that I'm thinking of right now, you can easily get to, as you said, like you're getting 100. For some reason in my head, I have 72 people in a month that I can get in touch with right now.
Yeah,
So
and yeah.
how would you balance that part?
Yeah, so first we always want to start with what we have. Most people listening or watching probably again have some sort of warm network that they're not fully doing anything with. And so step 1 is let's just restart the conversations, right? And then look at your calendar, look what's available, right? So if you can only take one meeting every business day, 5 meetings a week that are just connection meetings, great. Then maybe every day you just add 1 or 2 people to the process where you're reaching out to check in and schedule a meeting. If you can take more, right? So I take way more connection meetings per month and per week because my calendar's built for that. The other side of this is when you're doing new connections, sure. Like if your current network's not reacting, then yeah, you need to go to networking events. You need to do something where you can get warm, quick contacts that you can follow up and get some of these conversations going. But you already are seeing it, right? Just with your own network, you probably can get enough connections and stuff happening. You probably don't need to go out and build a bunch more. The other side of that is a lot of people will go like, "Oh, I have a CRM and I'm sending them a newsletter." Fantastic. That is not nurturing. That is brand awareness at best, and most people disregard your newsletter because they know it's not personal, right? There are great tools. There's some amazing AI happening in that space that's making it way more custom, way more responsive, bigger open rates. What we're talking about, and this is how I check in with people, and I'll give you the exact script. So the subject line says checking in, how are you? The email says this: Hey, Alex, it's been a while since we last connected. What's new and exciting in your world? Any new challenges? It's been a while since we last catched up. I'd love to get some time on the calendar to catch up with you so that I'm better aware of what connections would be best for you. Here's a link to my calendar. I look forward to catching up. That's my check in email, especially if I'm trying to fill my calendar. What happens is it's a personal email. Yes, they're templated. Yes, it comes, but it comes directly out of the inbox. It looks personal. It is personal. And the response rate is much higher than a traditional newsletter. And what happens is you're sending those out is now you're taking this dead CRM, right? Where you've got 100, 200, 1,000 contacts that you think you're nurturing through newsletters, but no one's really replying. Nothing's really happening. And you're actually starting to build relationships. And the ones that are open will start reaching out and going, "Hey, thanks for checking in. Yeah, this is what's going on in my world. Love to catch up." Great. Now, guess what? Now you can book a connection meeting and you can start the process, right? And now you can train them to make connections for you by doing what you want them to do. And that's what we're trying to do, right? We want to take this dead network, re-engage it, and then get that network to produce connections for you, which right now it's probably not doing. And if it is, it's doing it at a small level.
Yeah. Speaking of the CRM, and it's good that you pointed this out. A lot of people, they do have a database. Um, so far, I would say about 80% of clients that we have worked with, they do have a database, but they're not using it. So, and they do have a CRM, and they also don't use it. Using the strategy that you just shared and the messaging itself, would you suggest them to send this type of a message one by one to people? Or it's okay to send it as a blast? So I'll say maybe like 10 people at a time, but not necessarily one time or one email at a time.
Yeah, as long as it and this is a sophisticated answer, I guess, right? Because it depends on how well their CRM set up.
Yeah.
When the person receiving the email gets it, it needs to look exactly like a personal email. So it needs to be to them. It needs to have their name in it. If your CRM is set up and your fields are populated correctly, yes, you can do it both, but be careful because you don't want unsubscribe language. You don't want all the other stuff. Like these need to be those direct hit emails. My recommendation is most CRMs have a template functions. And so I'll have a task assigned that says, hey, check in with Alex, right? And then when that task pops up, I'll click on your profile, I'll click email, I'll insert the template for the check in, I'll hit send, I'll reassign the task for 6 weeks from now. That whole process, if it's all templates and you can just click in your CRM, is like 20 to 30 seconds.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Most CRMs do have templates, but it depends if the person has it set it up.
Yeah, it's definitely worth setting up. Otherwise, if you don't, you could use a tool like Text Expander is a great example. It's like $4 a month. You can put your template check-in in there with a quick little abbreviation. So mine is CIN. And so when I type CIN, it will populate the email and it works in all platforms, all of your email things. And so even if you can just have a contact and a task in your CRM, so you can keep track of when to do stuff with people, you can use a tool like Text Expander to then do the templating for you and speed the process up. And even doing it that way in your CRM, usually when you click their email address, it'll open up whatever your email is, whether it's a Google or an Outlook. Then you just type in your short code, you hit send, you're done. It's still a 30-second process. So this doesn't have to be an overwhelming time commitment, but it will start generating way more output and outcome for you guys.
Text Expander. I've never heard about this, Jill. Is it
Yeah. It's a cool little tool. I heard it on a mastermind group. We use the heck out of it and we template everything. Every subject line, intro, sign off, email we send, it's all templates. And I use short codes and it saves us hours a week.
Yeah, that's what it's all about these days. Time is money.
It is. Yeah. I want to do more, right? Like I want to spend time with people, not doing the busy work after.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to ask you regarding connections on LinkedIn, because a lot of times, it's not a lot of times, most of the times, people send you or you would send you do the cold outreach, and there are different strategies and how you do it. You could send a message with it, or send a note with the connection request, or send it without the note, and then only send the message when the person accepts the connection request. What have you seen so far? What's working the best in case with LinkedIn? And I will assume that you're gonna say do not pitch with the first message, especially with a note, because I've seen a lot of those messages myself.
Yeah. So I think let's get to a core principle and then tie it back to LinkedIn. So
Mhm.
there's 5 core principles. One of the core principles is to control what you can control. And that's going to be at the core of this answer because so often in our messaging and language, we are shooting for the wrong outcome. Our goal when we're connecting with people on LinkedIn should be to get them into a meeting. Our goal should not be to qualify them to buy our product or service because you don't know who they know. You don't know what their network looks like. You don't know anything. And so my goal is I want FaceTime with you because if I can get 30 minutes with you, I then get to permission to ask a bunch of questions, figure out if you're a great referral partner, potential client, all the other things, right? And so that's really that intent of controlling. And so often we're racing to the sale, but we need to be racing to the meeting because in a meeting, we have so much more power. We then can make connections. We could follow up. We could nurture. We could train them. They're in our database. So many other reasons. So when I reach out to people, if you have to, if you use the system properly and you use your database, you'll probably never have to do cold outreach. But if you need to, maybe there's a strategic contact where you're like, ooh, I want to know that person or their name pops up. What I would do is send a connection request with a note. In the note, I usually tie it to someone that mentioned them. So, hey, Alex, I did this yesterday actually. We came up in a conversation. I connected with them and said, hey, I met with Elena. She mentioned you. She said you're doing amazing stuff in the universe space. Would love to just connect. And so I do that. She accepts the connection. She says, oh, it's so great to meet with you. Elena's awesome. Right. So tying it back to someone personal. Then my follow-up was, it's I can see what you're doing. So I reference things that I've seen, right? I see what you're doing with this company. This was amazing. Love that video. And then it's the same script I use. I'd love to get time on the calendar to connect with you to learn more about you and your business so that I can make connections for you and better understand how you could fit into my network. Let's get some time on the calendar to connect. Here's a link to my calendar. She booked. So, like, literally within 45 minutes of sending the first one with a note, she replied, I replied, she's on calendar. And again, the things I want people to hear there is, one, if you can anchor it to referencing someone they probably know that edified them in the connection, and then focusing on, hey, I'd love to connect because we're targeting the same clients, or I see that you're on stages and that's something I'm trying to do too. Maybe we could figure out how to open up opportunities for stages. The language has to be about adding value to the other person or collectively doing something. You not default, which happens. I probably get 5 a day, right? Hey, I saw you. We have a lot of people in common. Love to connect. Okay, I'll connect, right? And then as soon as it happens, then I get the email that says, so glad we connected. I was looking at your profile and based on blah, 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 I'd love to talk to you about your website. That's fun. Do you have any idea if I need whatever you're selling? You have no clue, right? Instead,
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
it does happen. And I did connect with one 3 weeks ago. He messaged me. He said, hey, I looked at your profile. I'm between jobs and opportunities. It looks like you're well connected in this space. I've seen some of the podcasts you're on. I'd love to pick your brain and just figure out if there's any way that we might be able to open doors for each other. It was that kind of language. I was like, sure. Booked a meeting. He goes, hey, you know what? I went deeper into your profile. Here's some people that I think would be beneficial. Here's what I'm trying to accomplish. And then he asked a bunch of questions about me. I did make some connections. He made some connections. We both won. And he had an opportunity to mine in the meeting to see if there was some value, right? So why are we killing the ability to get into the meeting? Get into the meeting, then get really good at positioning and all these other things.
So many golden nuggets. Just dropping bombs left and right.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying to just give it all. Like whatever, someone grabs something, let's change the way you're building relationships, marketing, and selling.
Yeah.
Let's have you make more money and impact more people, right?
Yeah. Speaking of the impact more people, I saw it was either on the website or as part of your book, your goal is to impact 1 million people.
Yeah. So our goal is to make 1 million connections, which would
There
actually
we go.
double that, right? Because you got to connect 2 people. So yeah, it's a lofty goal. We're doing some crazy stuff to chase it, but it's fun, man. It's crazy to think about if you connect 1 million people to 1 million people, what is the impact of that? How many new friendships, new business opportunities, new relationships, how much revenue, how many strategic partnerships, how many employees, how many families impacted, how many communities impacted, how many millions, billions, trillions of dollars? You can't fathom it, right?
No.
You can't. But it's a super fun mission because every time I connect people, amazing stuff happens. And every time I get connected, I meet amazing people, right? So I just want everyone to be a part of that.
That is awesome. And I truly believe it. It's all about relationships and then building the trust. Because we all know people buy from you when they know, like, and trust you. And at the end of the day, you want to build a long-term relationships with other people and not just having like a quick sale opportunity.
Yep. 100%.
Sweet. I wanted to ask you, where can people get your book? Well, where I should say that. Where can I get your book?
Yeah. So Connection Expansion book is available on Amazon, paperback, hardcover, ebook. And then there's also an audiobook if you want to listen to me talk through this for 1 hour and 54 minutes. And that's available on all of your audiobook platforms.
Sweet. I'll definitely do the audiobook. That's what I usually do when I either work out or go for a walk with my dog.
I say it's too convenient now. Yeah. When I'm driving to like pick the kids up or run errands, it's easy to just have it on and like at least you're getting through it. And you're just looking for the golden nuggets, right? Like you're looking for the things that you can grab and you can really implement. At least that's how I'm reading. Like I'm not reading for all of it. I'm reading for the things that are very applicable to my situation.
Yeah, that's exactly what I also started doing is I would take the audiobook first. I would listen to it because again, when you run the errands, as you said, if I listen through it, it does happen that quite often in certain parts of the book there are lots of golden nuggets, but you can't really remember those. and I would just mark it to clip it in Audible. And then I would buy either the ebook or physical version and then listen and read at the same time. And that's when I would start marking it off. And
Yep.
now it's time to implement it.
Love that.
Yeah. And it feels like that way you get to get some information both ways, and you do remember way more things.
Yeah, I'm a traditional book guy, so I love having a physical book that I can scribble in and hold, and I mean, I love that. But yeah, whatever version you like, grab it, and I don't hold anything back. Every template's in there, every email's in there, the whole process is in there. There's no like go here to get the hidden piece. It's all there. And then yes, there's awesome content on the website and other places that will support that.
So speaking of the website, where can people find that?
Yeah, so it's devinsizemore.com. If you're on video, my name's on the screen. If you're listening, it's DEVIN sizemore.com. All of my stuff's on there, social links, a bunch of resources, trainings, content, and much, much more.
That is awesome. Well, Devin, thanks a lot for being on the show today. I learned quite a lot. I'm sure listeners learned even more, and I'm excited to stay connected with you. And I would advise our listeners to, or I would suggest for them to connect with you as well, because who knows what will happen.
I appreciate that. Yeah, great conversation. And yes, my encouragement is, right, you're one connection away. Go figure out which that connection is, meet more people, and let's drive your business forward.